What's going on, ladies and gentlemen and ladies? Welcome back to the Tatum Show. We got a whole bunch of stuff to talk about. Tyler Robinson case is heating up. I cannot wait to prove the naysayers wrong in this situation, to show love and respect to Charlie Kirk and his legacy. We got Mamdani raising rent or freezing rent like an idiot. He know, you about to find out that it does not work. Y'all gonna be crying and moving out of New York here soon. Also, the Supreme Court gave an incredible ruling for the Donald Trump administration as it relates to immigration. And Caitlin Clark, before we get to any of that, I want to talk about Caitlin Clark and these weird, I wanted to say it, but I'm not going to say it because I'm trying to be a Christian. Y'all know what I'm about to say. These weird women trying to take her out of the game because they're hating on her. Welcome to the Tatum Show.
I want everybody in this room to have that same spirit, that same identity carried in your life.
Make sure that you go through life and find your purpose.
And we don't do this just to get a pat on the back. We do it because we came here to win.
And it starts with you understanding that God has a purpose for you.
This is the time to be more bold than ever before.
We're all Americans at the end of the day, and we should love one another. We should be focused on what's right for our country. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Tatum Show. Hey, I want to first of all say thank you to all the people who are subscribed to the membership program, all the people who are subscribed to my channel. I want to say thank you guys as well. So this is a shout out to all the deputy chiefs. Shout out to y'all, man. Thank y'all for supporting at the highest level. But I want everybody to know, whether you subscribe, whether you are in the membership program, I love all of y'all the same. You got different kids. Different kids do different things. You like certain things about other kids. But I love all of you guys the same, and I thank you and appreciate all the support. There's a whole bunch of incredible things. People probably asking me and wondering, like, why does your studio look like that? Well, I'm in Washington State right now and doing some incredible things. I met an incredible guy today. I could tell his name. I don't think it's a secret. Mark Russo. I just met him today. You see that gold eagle that's in the White House? They made that. He's an incredible artist, incredible art studio that I just seen. It just blew my socks off, and we got some really incredible things in the making. You guys are going to be blown away by the things that we may end up doing together as a partnership. So let's get to the story. How about we get to Caitlin Clark first? Let me just give my perception on this. I think that these women are doing nothing wrong outside of being haters. Let me retract that, because I know somebody can be like, he said they didn't do nothing wrong. No, let me say this. I don't think it's extreme what these women are doing. They're just playing hard ball. That's what they're doing. She's the best player in the league, so they want to be rough and tough and get in her mind. That's what you do. When you got Tom Brady rolling out to throw a little check down and you get an opportunity to blast him, you're going to blast him. Why? You want Tom Brady to be off his game. You want Tom Brady to be thinking about the hits so he don't do what he needs to do next. Are some of these things getting into the realm of dirty play? Yes, and I think they are held accountable for dirty play. But I don't think it's something mysterious and they're just trying to go after her just because she's a white girl in a black league full of lesbians. No, what they're doing, I think, is trying to intimidate her and play hardball and fight her tooth and nail, so she got to pay for every single thing that she do in the league, every single point she has to earn. But, however, it is a true thing that these women are hating on her, and they are, trying to hurt the young lady. But it's a part of the game, man. If you don't want to play the game, you show me Caitlin Clark complaining about this, and then I'll come on here and defend her at the same vigor. But I don't think that she's complaining about it. It's a part of the game. But roll a clip. Let's see what they talked about. Roll.
Caitlin to the ground, and that's a hand to the neck, and then listen to. Caitlin to the ground, and that's a hand to the neck, and then
I roll it.
Caitlin to the ground, and
time out. Pause. See, when I look at that, it ain't that. It's a foul. You shouldn't be doing it. It doesn't look good to do that, and you're going to get in trouble for doing that, rightfully so. But is it the girl just mashing her neck down like that? It wasn't as bad as it looked. So I don't get super outraged by that, to be quite honest. But it is wrong, and that girl was held accountable. Let's roll the clip. I think it's another clip that we.
A hand to the neck.
All right, in the moment, no whistle, no foul. Now, amid backlash, the WNBA announcing just last hour, the Phoenix Mercury's Alyssa Thomas has received a flagrant foul, 2 penalty, and a 1-game suspension. But it does beg the question, how does the biggest star the league has ever produced keep getting treated like this? It's become a pattern, not just hard fouls, not just physical basketball, but cheap shots. And now her coach has had enough.
Absolutely disrespectful. We have a generational talent and a WNBA superstar who had 2 cheap shots right there that weren't called. And I just say again, absolutely unacceptable.
This isn't new, unfortunately. Caitlin Clark has been getting beat up on, and seems like it's against everyone. The opposing teams, the officials, even the league itself. The latest snub by the WNBA is leaving Clark off a promotional poster highlighting its top players over the last 30 years.
Time out. There bet not be a single woman in the league currently that's on that flyer, and it's not Caitlin Clark. And see, this is where I get worked up at, right? The tough play, they're gonna play it hard, they're gonna do that. You know, maybe the refs did not see the flagrant foul at the time. I can give them that. But once they saw it and once it was brought to their attention, they acted on it. Now, if it was brought to their attention because of backlash, then I have a problem with that. They should be standing up for their only cash cow. Nobody's watching the WNBA except if you want to see Caitlin Clark doing that work. That's it. And then Sophie Cunningham, because I like her too. But ain't nobody watching these lesbians out there throwing a basketball and they can't even dunk. Like, to be honest, nobody really watching that. You know, and Caitlin Clark brought a lot of attention. This stuff right here is where I have a problem at. They try to keep her out of the Olympic team. I think it was on a video game or something. They had a video game or something or a magazine cover, and they didn't put her on a front cover. They tried to do a flyer with the team and don't even put on there. 30 years of history. This girl has accomplished and done more in 3 seasons or so. Her numbers are better than women that have been in the WNBA for 30 years. Now, none of them been in the NBA for 30 years continuously, but I'm saying all of the players together, all of their best stats can't even amount to some of the things that Caitlin Clark has been able to do in 3 years. The fact that they did not put this woman on this freaking magazine cover is insanity to me. Let me explain to you why they're doing it. It's because you got some black lesbian somewhere that hate the fact that this white girl is getting pub in a black league, and they're going to leave her off intentionally. This is what people do. It's some nut job that's not thinking, that don't care about their job, and they're going to do things like this, and they look stupid doing it. All right, I think we got a couple more people who have commented on the Caitlin Clark case. Or Caitlin Clark situation. Let's roll it. Stephen A. Smith has something to say.
You're not the NBA. You don't have an 11-year, $77 billion contract. You are building the league. You just reached an incredible collective bargaining agreement. You understand they did a great job with that. The league is growing, and it's reaching some of its aspirations, no doubt, but there's still a lot more work to be done. Don't get in the way of the cash cow. You don't sit up there and pave a way for her and don't compete. Nobody's implying that. But you certainly ride that tidal wave of popularity and use it to your advantage to build the game, not compromise and hurt the game by taking her out whenever you get the opportunity to do so. That's not smart. That's not smart at all.
Next gentleman, he had a slate. I forget his name. What's his name?
Boomer.
Yeah, Boomer. That's his name.
If I were Caitlin Clark, I would seriously consider going to play overseas somewhere and get the royal treatment and get real money.
From the Saudis?
From somewhere. I mean, there's international.
She can't go to the Saudis.
Well, she can't go to the Russians either, as we saw that, Brittany Griner got stuck there.
She did. Well, yeah, in jail.
Right. So
can't take that money from PIF.
But a lot of the women actually do play, in European leagues because they supplement their income. But now supposedly their income is going up here. And I know that Caitlin makes a ton of money off the court in terms of endorsements, and rightfully so. But I think that there's a petty jealousy, and she's a straight white basketball player. And she is not being treated with any sort of respect whatsoever.
Yeah, and for the most part, I feel like they don't kiss her butt. She got to play the game. She got to play tough. That's the way the game works. If you can't do it, get out the league. But I do see when people are saying, why are you guys not being mindful and not trying to bite the hand that feeds you? Caitlin Clark is feeding the league. Caitlin Clark is the reason why a lot of people are interested in women's basketball again. Maybe when it first joined, people were kind of hot on it. But unless y'all got these girls running around in thongs, ain't nobody going to be watching that. Because ain't nobody hitting threes from half court like Caitlin Clark. It just ain't happening. And then, like you said, these girls, her and Sophie and some others, when they get off court and they go dress up, they kind of good looking. And that's not traditionally what happens in the WNBA, as you can see. Some of them girls look like their uncle. And some of the girls look like my uncle. And ain't nobody trying to watch that. And women are not supporting other women. You go look at the games. Who watching basketball? Women ain't watching that stuff. They watching Real Housewives where women turn themselves down, turn each other down every day. They're not watching women's basketball or supporting them by merch. It ain't happening. All right. I think I had enough on this topic. Emmanuel Acho has something to say. I think I agree with Emmanuel Acho on this, but we got to get to our other stories because we got limited time today. So let's get to the next topic at hand. Go ahead and put it up on the screen. Roll the clip.
This time regarding the fate of certain migrants.
I don't have my paper with me, so I don't know which one is next. But now I know that this is the Supreme Court judgment that I think rolled out in Donald Trump's favor in part is because I don't understand why this is even an issue in our country. Things are very simple. I think of things in a very simplistic way. You come to America through the port of entry. You seek asylum. You come here and do what you're supposed to do with your paperwork, like all these other people have done. And then you know what? You may have an opportunity to stay here and build wealth and build success in this country. You bring your nasty behind over here up under a fence, or you bring your butt over here and you don't take care of your paperwork and you somehow gonna skip on a court hearing, you might get out, you might be asked to leave this country. How are you shocked by that? Now, I'll say if you have a problem with it, go to Mexico and see if they give you citizenship and let you lay over there. Go to any country in the world that's civilized and see if they let you stay in their country without any paperwork. You're just going to come there and use their resources and do whatever you want to do and go to jail and do all this stuff, and they're going to just let you do it. You can't find a country. So I don't know why they think that's appropriate here in the United States of America. Come here the right way like all these other people done did. All right, Supreme Court made a ruling. Roll it.
Living with temporary protected status. There are a bunch of them. And Shannon Bream joins us again with more. Shannon, how do we read this one?
Okay, so Dana, we read it as a win for the Trump administration, which has wanted to wipe out temporary protected status for more than 1 million people who are living here in this country. These cases centered on a number of Haitian and Syrian refugees who were here in the country. And basically what the court has said is that they can't challenge this decision by the Department of Homeland Security, by the administration, that they're the ones who get to make the assessment about whether they leave or not. I haven't read the whole thing, but they do get into some of the claims that by some of those who are advocating for the Haitian refugees, that there was some kind of racial animus. The court says they don't see evidence of that. So I'll keep reading, but it's another very fractured decision that seems to be a win for the Trump administration, which would be the second win for them on immigration. That earlier decision that we talked about that came out just a few minutes ago saying that if you get to the Mexico border, but you don't make it onto U.S. soil, you can't file an asylum claim. So the Trump administration has to be happy about what they've gotten today. We've still got 8 opinions left, and it looks like Monday will be our next opinion day.
All right, now look at Mom Dummy and see what he had to say. You know, why the man got to have a pride flag or a little trans flag behind him? Why does he need to do that? Why can't he just have his desk and set up like he's supposed? Why he got a virtue signal? And that's one thing that I just do not understand, because if you're going to have a pride flag, you need to have a cross back there too. And you need to have the Star of David and all kind of stuff. You're not trying to be inclusive and represent everybody. What you're doing is you're virtue signaling, and it's annoying as F to me. But listen to what Mom Dummy has to say. And then after we talk about this, we're going to talk about the rent freezing thing that he did, which is asinine. Dude, I do not have an economics degree, and common sense 2 + 2 is 4. It tells you that this is a disaster. Roll the clip.
We saw today the Supreme Court make a decision that is putting so many people's lives in jeopardy. And I just came back from a rally with 1199 as I stood alongside a number of Haitian New Yorkers who are concerned about what this means for their status in our city. And frankly, this city, the one that we love, is one that has been built by so many from so many different parts of the world. And that includes our Haitian brothers and sisters, our Syrian brothers and sisters. And we stand here ready to be in solidarity with all of those who are concerned by today's decision. And beyond just language of solidarity, actions of solidarity. Now, what that means when it comes to our city is if you are worried about what this means for your status.
Time out real quick. That's why these people are going to burn in hell one day. We're not talking about people who came here legally and are the citizens who are Haitian. You're talking about people with a temporary order. That means that you had temporary, it was never permanent. Nobody promised you it was permanent. Nobody told you it was permanent. You don't have a permanent status at all. You have temporary status. So if the government is doing what they said and you agreed to do, how is that a problem? You're not, if you don't have permanent citizenship or what they call permanent residency, you don't have none of that stuff. That's not what you applied for. That's not what was promised to you. Then you should not get it. What are we talking about here? They think you're supposed to be able to come over here on some temporary status. All of a sudden, you just get, amnesty. You lied to the government, or you tricked the government into saying, I only want to be in the United States of America for a temporary reason. And then now you go, got you. I'm over here. I stay forever. That don't make sense. Let him finish.
If you're worried about what this means for your family, I would encourage you to call our Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs hotline, and you can do so at 1-800-354-0365. Again, that's 1-800-354-0365. Now, many of you know this is a city of 8.5 million people. More than 3 million of us were born elsewhere. I'm one of them. We're a city that's proud of our immigrant heritage. And when we think about, especially what Haitian New Yorkers have had to deal with, not just for weeks or months or years, but frankly.
Hold on a second. This is Exhibit B of why these people gonna go to hell. Why are you conflating immigrants who came over here the right way with immigrants who illegally came to this country or have temporary status or have violated their status? He said there's 3 million of us that were born in another country. What does that have to do with somebody who have temporary status and their status has expired? What is that? They lying to you. They want to trick you. He's not speaking of himself and those people the same way. He came over here the right way. His family got real status. They paid all that money to do it. And now he's want to lump y'all in to virtue signal. It is insane to me. I can't stand these people. Let him finish real quick, and then we're going to get to the next topic.
For decades, we have seen a cruelty that has become normalized. And to have people who frankly taught the world about freedom have their own freedom be put in jeopardy by the actions of a Supreme Court and a federal administration,
Time out.
It is not only cruel.
Hold on. Who taught the world about freedom? Haitians? Are they taught people the world about freedom in Haiti? Okay, finish it.
It's something that we will not ever accept. And so we stand here as New Yorkers proud of standing in solidarity and proud to do everything that we can to keep people in their homes and to keep people together.
Oh my God, I can't stand this guy. So let's go to the rent freezing. If you guys don't feel stupid and have buyer's remorse yet, you will. Freezing rent is the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. It's a virtue signal, ladies and gentlemen. And I said this, and you heard it from B. Tatum first, unless you watched the media and the news and somebody else said it. But I think I'm one of the only ones that's putting this together. They only want to do rent control because they know that landlords are not going to be able to afford to maintain these buildings because they cannot raise the rent with raising costs that they have to incur. And what they're going to do is bankrupt these landlords, and then the state is going to take over, or the city is going to take over the housing. And that's exactly what they're going to do. They want to transfer wealth from people having private ownerships to the government owning and running everything. And then what's going to happen is that you're going to end up paying for your own housing through tax revenue. They're going to tax the out of you, and that's going to be your new housing. I'm telling you that's what's going to happen. Or the young lady said it. I can't take credit for it, but after this clip, I'm going to play what the young lady said, and I think that she's accurate about it. Roll it.
Hey, John, it's a first-of-its-kind move. The New York City Rent Guidelines Board just voted for a rent freeze for 1- and 2-year leases. This is the first time ever that the city has frozen 2-year leases for rent-stabilized apartments. And before this, they'd only voted to freeze 1-year leases 3 times ever. This move affects nearly 1 million units. It passed 7-1 after the board's only pro-landlord representative, Christina Smith, resigned in protest just hours before the vote. Landlords say even before rent freezes, they struggle to maintain rent-stabilized buildings. That is why small family landlord Natalia Bonanno decided to list the last of her family's buildings for sale a week ago, before the vote even happened. She had no trust in the process or in her city.
This just shows that the Rent Guidelines Board is not as nonpartisan and apolitical as they make themselves out to be. There was no reason, no data to support this type of rent freeze. All the data shows the cost of everything is going up, including taxes and insurance, and they still chose to just fulfill the mayor's campaign promise.
Bonanno has had 2 buildings on the market for months and listed the last 3 last week. She's been unable to sell any of them. And now there are concerns that this could be part of the larger plan to turn rent-stabilized buildings into government-owned housing.
Yep.
This appears to be the plan, because the next plan they want to pass is the ability for the city to intervene on the sale of these properties. The city will then dictate who you can sell your building to. So this does seem to be overall the goal of the housing advocates, who just don't believe in private property.
The rent freeze is expected to face legal challenges, but as of now, it's going to start for leases that begin October 1st.
It's exactly what they're going to do to you. All of these people that have built businesses over the last 20, 30 years are going to take a hit, because they're going to freeze the rent on millions of people. And although your taxes are not frozen, right? Why can't the city freeze taxes on landlords and say, we'll freeze your taxes if you freeze the rent? Why? No, listen to me when I say this. Why don't they do that? Because if your goal is to help the people who are residents who live in these places, to help them with affordability, why can't you do both and say, as a landlord, if you don't raise rent, we will give you a tax credit? But they don't want that, because they don't give up about these people. They want the landlord to bankrupt, because they're not going to be able to fix anything, because they don't have discretionary income anymore. And they know that. They're going to impose restrictions on landlords and say, hey, you're a slumlord because you haven't made any innovations in the last 6 months, and we're going to fine you for that. And so they're going to end up bankrupting all of these people who own these buildings. One or two things is going to happen. One is that they're going to go bankrupt, and the state is going to own the property. Now, what does the state do with the property? The state cannot function and own and run the property without using your money. Rich people ain't paying that money. So you, the average person, is going to fork out more taxes, and everything is going to be more expensive, and then you're going to have to pay for your own rent. When it started out saying we're going to freeze rent for rent affordability, we're going to tax the wealthy and all that, and then you're going to end up with the bill. That's exactly how every communist, socialist community starts. It's the elite, and then all of you bums at the bottom of the barrel, struggling every day. That's exactly how they want it to happen. I'm just telling you, and I hope that you hear me. Go and look at anything. Billionaires are not paying taxes like you say. There's loopholes that they're never going to fix in the tax code. And when I'm a billionaire, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm not paying no taxes if I don't have to. So just so you know, this is what these billionaires that live in New York are doing. They left already. They can move their company and get $1 billion, $6 billion investment in Miami. They are playing with house money. These people are not paying with their own money. Elon Musk and all these billionaires don't have $1 billion in their bank account. They have $1 billion of net worth in the stock of the company that they own. And all they do is go to a bank and get a line of credit, or they get something else and they live off that. They never pay taxes on that money. Now, they may pay $1 billion of taxes in corporate tax, but they find loopholes and stuff to get around that too. So you're going to be paying for it. You can't have socialism without capitalism, because you can't have socialism without capital. The government is not raising and making money. It's independent, privately owned businesses that are making all the money that they tax, and then that's how the government function. I'm warning y'all. Look at this fool playing with y'all's money in the refrigerator. Roll it.
New York, the Independent Rent Guidelines Board just froze the rent. That means if you're one of the more than 2 million New Yorkers who lives in a rent-stabilized apartment, your rent's going to be frozen next year.
And your refrigerator going to be just like his. Your rent's going to be frozen, and your refrigerator going to have nothing in it but a freaking ice cream that wasn't even in a wrapper with no food. Did you notice he had no food in that refrigerator? That's what your refrigerator going to look like. Here's I believe this is a landlord articulating why this is a problem. Roller clip.
They're not even hiding the bias anymore. The mayor had campaigned on a rent freeze. He appoints 75% of the board, and now he's got his hand on the scale. If we keep eroding one side of the equation, something's got to give, and the people in those buildings are going to suffer. So there has to be some kind of fairness and recognition of the math.
All right, here's a young lady. She had something to say too, and I think her explanation was good.
Freeze isn't going to save the buildings that tenants live in. It's going to actually destroy them. Freezing rent doesn't freeze costs. The landlord's property taxes, insurance, utilities, maintenance, all of those fees go up. But the rent he could charge to pay for all that is just locked. So what happens? Repairs stop, capital improvements stop, the building begins to decay. Eventually, maybe the landlord sells to a developer who tears down the entire thing, and then they just put a luxury complex there. The 2019 Tenant Protection Act already broke the math on rent stabilization. A freeze on top of that is the kill shot. And the people who will pay for it are the exact tenants who voted for it. Freezing rent doesn't keep you in your apartment. It just changed who owns it, and then you get kicked out.
Which is very interesting. I think people are not thinking about that. You know how they call it gentrification? There's a lot of places where people would love to have that real estate to put high-end residents there. There's a lot of people that live a little too far out of the city. They'll love to come live down the street in one of these places that's nice and have a nice little park where they can walk. And all of you poor people, they won't. You're not going to live there. They're going to have people that got money that live there, and they're going to move you out. And you're not going to be able to afford it. Like there's ways around, I'm telling you guys this, there's ways around this stuff that rich people do all the time, and they're going to do you in if they want to. Rich people never lose. Business owners never really lose. They'll take their business and go somewhere else. And then they'll sell that business. And I wonder if they're going to be able to do this. If you go sell a business, you may have to actually sign new leases with all these people. And so when you go to sell a business, you sign new leases, will the rent freeze still be applicable? I don't know. We'll find out. All right, let's get to the next story. This is the Tyler Robinson case. This is one of the biggest things, and it's going to be historic. I'm telling you. And I anticipate this happening simply because, not because I want it to happen, it's because I know it will happen because I'm one of the only people out here that's willing to tell the truth about this. This is how I ended up becoming as popular as I am today. For those of you just now starting to follow me, it's because in the face while everybody else was talking stupid and saying all this stuff and believing things, I provided factual information based on real, true experience that I have. Not bias, not getting emotional about it. I'm telling the truth. And I became incredibly popular. This situation is going to be exactly the same. People are listening to stew heads talk about this Tyler Robinson, Charlie Kirk case. And they're insinuating things because it gets clicked and virality, but they're not telling you the truth. So you're going to be hurt at the end of the day when the trial proceeds and it don't go the way you think it will. Now, the naysayers are going to say, see, I told you it was rigged, because they know they lying to you and they got to keep the lie going. But in reality, for those of you who want to know the truth, you're going to find out that these people are lying to you about the Tyler Robinson case. Is the government trustworthy? No, I don't trust the government as far as I can throw them. But if there's evidence of them not being trustworthy, you go with it. If there's evidence that the government is telling the truth, you need to listen to the evidence and function in reality. You cannot live in a place where everything the government do is false. And you cannot live in a place where everything the government do is true. You have to live in a space where there's truth and evidence. I'll be at the trial, at Charlie Kirk's trial. I'll be at the Charlie Kirk preliminary hearing trial. I don't call it a trial, it's a preliminary hearing. I'll be there whenever it starts, I think the 6th through the 10th or something like that. I'll be there in person, and and it's televised, so you can go look at it yourself. But if there's things that is behind the court's filming where you can't film or have access to it, and I'm able to present it to the public, I will let you guys know. But I'm telling you right now, this case is not a whodunit. This case is how much time or death penalty will the person who did it is going to get. I want people to understand that. And this is the thing that bothers me the most. Y'all give me a hint on the time because I'm just talking. I don't have my phone. So 8 minutes. This is one of those situations where people are saying the FBI has a narrative. I'm trying to encourage you. The FBI does not have a narrative. the FBI has evidence that they have in their possession, and they're presiding or are presenting to you the evidence they have. And the evidence that they don't have, they cannot present to you. And also, there are certain things that the government has or the state has or the federal government has and knowledge of they cannot present to you because you are not a juror and you're not in the trial. And they're not trying this case in the public opinion. They have to try this case before a juror or the jury. And I want you guys to understand the big difference. Like some people go, well, why did they not show this? If it's true, then why don't they tell us this? If it did, they cannot do that. It will compromise the case. They will effectively end up getting a jury that cannot be impartial, that's damaged, that's flawed. And then the case will be thrown out. Or the case will be ending a hung jury. They have to retry the case. All of this crazy stuff. How do you know, Mr. Tatum? I did this for a living. I was a cop doing investigations. I know what we can and cannot say to people. And so I think you're going to find that Tyler Robinson did kill Charlie Kirk, and there was no lapel mic explosion and none of the other stuff. It's a nut job lunatic that hate Charlie with a passion, and he got an opportunity to take a shot at Charlie Kirk because he was vulnerable. They could not secure the facility. It was impossible. And he had 2 weeks or so to go and plan, and knew Charlie was going to be there. He knew exactly where Charlie was going to be, and he hated him so much that he gave it a try. And I'm telling you right now, there are so many of these nut jobs out here that want to give it a try. They just don't have the opportunity. They want to kill Trump. They want to kill all kind of people. They've tried it. Judge Scalise or Scalise, Justice Scalise, they tried it at that basketball. They tried Trump 3 or 4 times now. You see the guy running through the lobby with the gun trying to kill Charlie, trying to kill Trump. These people it's a plethora of them. And we're missing that. All right, let me give you the new information that came out. I know my people can edit this out. I just had to get that off the chest bone. All right. So let's talk about the new information that's come out. The prosecution was found in contempt for certain things that in the public that the judge felt they went too far with. But wait till you hear what wasn't considered in contempt for the prosecution, and wait till you hear what the ruling was against the defense team, and I think is the crux of this case. Roll the clip.
Key rulings at hearing for Charlie Kirk's accused assassin. The judge has just ruled. Now remember, 2 things at stake, the gag order and the death penalty. The judge has just ruled that a prosecutor did in fact violate a gag order and also denied a defense request to take the death penalty off the table. Matt Finn is there with the latest. Matt.
Hi, Harris. Judge Graff just found one of the Utah County prosecutors, Chris Ballard, in contempt for violating the court's pretrial publicity order. Now, Tyler Robinson's defense was asking for the death penalty to be removed from the case as punishment. But Judge Graff declined, saying it's grossly misproportionate to the misconduct. Instead, Judge Graff said that this is a civil contempt and the state is going to have to pay fees. Now, not long after Charlie Kirk was killed last September, the court issued a gag order. But since then, prosecutor Chris Ballard communicated with the media multiple times. Robinson's defense argued that Ballard violated the gag order when he did media interviews about an ATF report. Tyler Robinson's defense previously said that that ATF ballistic report shows that a bullet fragment recovered from the autopsy cannot be conclusively matched to Tyler Robinson's rifle. While Ballard argues that Robinson's defense has been mischaracterizing that report, and so the prosecution claims its communications with the press are not breaching the gag order, rather, quote, correcting the record. Judge Graff agreed on that matter.
A false media narrative asserting that the murder weapon has been definitively forensically excluded constitutes substantial undue prejudice to the prosecution. Mr. Ballard's statements explaining the forensic mechanical definition of an inconclusive test were narrowly tailored to mitigate this specific prejudice.
Now, on a separate topic, Judge Graff did rule that Ballard is in contempt and violated the gag order. That is a statement that Ballard made to TMZ about the strength of the state's case. The judge said that that was unnecessary and implied guilt, Harris.
All right, let me jump in here. Let me explain this to you if you missed it, because I had to watch it a couple times to get exactly what he said. The foolery that will come from this, and I want you to identify them, and you should unsubscribe to them once you find out that they're a lying sack of bones. They are going to lie to you and say that the prosecution was held in contempt of court related. When I say related, I mean directly related to them debunking the lie that the gun was not a match. That was conclusively not a match. There's going to be people who say, see, the prosecution came out and they said the gun wasn't a match. See, it wasn't a match. And they got found in contempt of court because he lied about it. That did not happen. The judge just said on the clip, you can go back and watch it, that was reasonable for the prosecution to debunk the lies that says that the gun that was recovered, that believed is the suspect weapon, was conclusively separated from ballistics. That was not true. And I can explain this real quick because I know people have a question about it. The way that it operated is this. The bullets was fragmented in Charlie Kirk's body, so much so that they could not reconstruct the bullet and test fire and make it match. So when the bullet fragments are so fragmented, they cannot test fire out of the gun. So they cannot make it conclusive. But it does not rule the gun out. It just makes it where it's not conclusive, if that makes sense. So for instance, let me give you an example. If I take a gun and I shoot it, boom, and the bullet hits somebody and go through and through and hit the ground, right? When I go to retest that, I have the actual bullet so I can test the striations, or not striations, is the markings on that bullet. I can fire from the same gun and I can compare the two bullets. And I can say that the same demarcation on this bullet matches the exact same demarcation on this bullet. Why would they need to match? Is because the barrel is the same barrel. So it has its own kind of DNA. There's only certain marks that will end up on a bullet from the same barrel. It's almost like its identity. So you can shoot 1,000 rounds out, and 1,000 rounds are going to have the same kind of demarcations on the round. So if they have a full bullet, they match it to the test fire and they say, this is conclusively the weapon. With the fragmentation being so dense in Charlie's body, they couldn't recover a bullet to test fire it. When you can't test fire it, you have to say it's not conclusive. That doesn't rule out that being a murder weapon. That just rule out that the test fire wasn't conclusive. Anyway. All right, let's get to the next clip. And this talks about the death penalty a little bit and the ramifications behind the contempt claim. So therefore, when people come out and they go, they're in contempt, listen to him explain how much value that actual contempt means in this case. Roll it.
How does the contempt charge against Chris Ballard, the prosecutor, how does that affect the case? Would they pull him off? Does it do anything else to the prosecution?
I think it'll have no effect whatsoever. And I think the best way to look at this whole thing is this was a win for the prosecution. Yes, they were found in contempt, but they were not found in contempt for the bigger issue about correcting the ATF report. That was really what this was all about, was there was false information out there. The prosecution felt that they had to act and had to act quickly to correct it so it would not create this spun out of control false narrative. And the judge said that that was fine. Where they went too far was by saying, and by the way, we have extreme confidence in this case. That was a little too far for the judge as far as giving their opinions on the strength of evidence. And so it's a slap on the wrist. Really, the remedy here is the judge is going to allow for a more expanded voir dire, which is good anyway. So end of the day, maybe he will get a talking to by his boss, but I doubt this will change things moving forward.
The big news of the day, I would think, though, for prosecutors is the fact that the death penalty stays on the table. Real quick, the significance of the judge's decision today.
Yeah, and the judge even said it was grossly disproportionate to even ask for that as a remedy. The death penalty is going nowhere. That's the important thing. The prosecution can move on as the case was to begin with.
And I didn't get a chance to mention this to you guys, but the death penalty is a huge thing here, because I want you guys to be very clear about this. And this should debunk a lot of the mythical things that are going on about the conspiracies around Charlie Kirk's death and that the government is covering it up. Who wanted cameras to not be in the courtroom? The prosecution or the defense? The defense team. Who want there to be who is arguing the death penalty or making that one of their biggest claims? It's the defense. Who is, in addition to that, outside of the death penalty claim, outside of the, them not wanting cameras in the courtroom, it was something else that I mentioned and it skipped my mind. But it's clear to me that the prosecution, if the prosecution has something to hide, if they believe that it was a cover-up and they don't want the media to know about any of these things, they would have been pressing to not have this public, to not have the evidence presented, and for everybody to be able to watch this trial. The defense went out of their way to try to get cameras not in the trial. That's because they don't want the world to see what's about to happen. And I don't understand how people don't understand this. This whole case, and I said it from the beginning, we'll see if I'm right, like I've been 100% of the time, is that this is really a death penalty case. They're trying to fight tooth and nail to make sure Tyler Robinson, their son, is not going to get the death penalty. They want him to have life in prison and spend the rest of his life in prison without getting put to death. This is what the argument is about. And you can tell it here because the defense wanted them to vacate the death penalty as a part of, this case if he's found guilty. And the judge said no, it's still on the table. Before I get out of here, because I got to get up out of here and get on this flight, I got one more story to talk about. And why are you talking about this story, Brandon? Because I told you guys from the very beginning, I have to be the Negro whisperer because I feel like people are not going to ever keep it real. Now, we've seen all this controversy that's gone out in the media when Carmelo Anthony came out, and all these black folks are crying about Carmelo Anthony. Even though he killed somebody, even though he was wrong, they crying about him, getting 35 years in prison. But let me find Benjamin Crump or anybody crying about this situation. Pull it up. Let me see. Do your research and tell me, are they crying about this 12-year-old that got killed by another black man? Roll the clip. Let's see if they crying about it. Hold on, time out. Before I see who crying about what, are they crying at this 12-year-old? You don't know his name. You ain't never gonna know his name. He ain't never gonna get a T-shirt. He ain't never gonna get Benjamin Crump reputation. They're not gonna do a press conference. They're not gonna want justice. They're not gonna ask for justice. They're gonna talk about it. So you ain't gonna get that part. And then also, on the other side of this, the family does not feel like anybody should be held accountable. When I say anybody should be held accountable, wait till you see how this 12-year-old ended up getting shot. And to be honest, even though he was 12, he was still involved in violent behavior that ended up getting him shot. Roll the clip.
Get in there, Mari! Get in there, Mari! Yeah! Yeah! Oh!
Tonight, a family mourns the loss of a 12-year-old little boy shot and killed in downtown Nashville.
After a fight turned deadly, now police say they have arrested the man accused of pulling the trigger. News 2's Lexi Wilson has that story.
He took my baby from me.
This family. Before I get to grandma saying this stuff, I want to articulate what I believe we just saw and why it's not self-defense. Now, it appears that the man with the dreads that got arrested, that I believe did the shooting, y'all correct me if I'm wrong, I think he's the one that did the shooting, he got jumped by like 6-7 people. And somehow this 12-year-old was a part of that. He's jumping and kicking and doing all kind of stuff, which is absolutely insane. Now, I'm not saying he deserved anything by that, but him putting himself in a position because mom and them don't raise their kids right. Because if you look at this video, and I don't even remember, I could be wrong. I don't think daddy on this video one time. These boys ain't got no daddies. Either their daddy is terrible or they grandma and them raising them. And what these women do, they make excuses for the 12-year-old boy. When he was 3 years old, 4, 5, 6, 7, they raise him to just do crazy stuff. And then he ends up jumping some nut job and getting in on it and think it's funny. And then this fool ends up firing blindly and killing this 12-year-old. Let me tell you why this is not self-defense. He may try to argue self-defense. Once the scenario or the engagement in violence has subsided and is no longer a threat, you cannot then turn around and shoot people in the back. Now, if he had pulled his gun and shot any one of them while he was getting jumped, 100% justified. He wouldn't have spent a minute in jail. He would be justified because he is getting jumped by multiple people. So serious bodily injury or death could be a reality for him. Using deadly force in that situation would have been justified. Don't care how old these kids are or nothing. He's getting jumped. He could have been killed. To be honest, they could have stomped his head and it would have been over. And he had a gun on this person. Now, if he's illegally carrying that gun, that's another question. But once they stop jumping him, they run away. They're no longer a threat. Now, his pride hurt, but there's no longer a threat to you. There's no serious threat of serious injury or bodily harm, right? Or death, what we call it. So then you pull out a gun and shoot people while they're running away. That is murder, my friend. Listen to grandma and them that never held this boy accountable and still don't think that nothing is wrong here. That your 12-year-old is out unsupervised, jumping a man and potentially could have killed him. Because to be honest, if he would have died in that scenario, all of those boys would have been charged with murder. If somebody would have kicked him in the head the right way and he'd have died, all them boys, including that 12-year-old, would have been charged with murder. Roll the clip.
Still in disbelief after 12-year-old Damarian Moorhead was shot and killed Sunday night.
Why did he bring a gun? Yes. That's what I want to know. Nobody can answer that for me.
Emotions still raw as they remember Moorhead.
Grandma, Granny, Big Mama, let me answer for you. Why did he bring a gun? Because your grandson and these other kids jumped him. You got to be afraid of getting jumped and potentially killed. That's why he had a gun. To be quite honest, I don't know if he threatened them with the gun. That's why they stopped jumping him, because they were kicking him in the head and everything. That's why he got a gun. This room is full of women. Do you notice that? Full of women. Where are the men at in the community? They ain't there. That's why these kids are out of control. The one shooting and the one getting shot and all the other kids jumping him. All of them kids could have lost their entire life if that young man would have died. And to be honest, they actually should charge the other kids with murder from the 12-year-old getting killed, because their actions, which was criminal, caused the death of another kid. Now, let me backtrack that. If he had acted in self-defense legitimately, I think they would have all been charged with murder. But because the scenario dispersed and he shot somebody in the back, therefore the threat was not imminent, and then he shot somebody in the back that was wrong. But if they were jumping him and he shot and killed a 12-year-old while they were jumping him, all the kids there would have been charged with felony murder, because in the commission of a felony crime, somebody died because of their violent behavior. They would have been charged. Anyway, let's get to grandma now, and then we're going to get up out of here, y'all. I promise. Roll it.
As a kid who loved to rap and play football, his brothers and cousins admired him.
He was not a bad child. He was not a bad child. He just made bad decisions. We all done made bad decisions.
Metro Police say the fight broke out here in a courtyard near Representative John Lewis Way in Dedrick Street. During the fight, police say 24-year-old Devin Orr pulled out a gun. As people started to run, police say shots were fired. The 12-year-old was hit in the head. He later died at the hospital.
He didn't care how old he was or who he was. He just...
Monday morning, police arrested Orr at a home on Fisk Street. Investigators say the fight was over a woman.
A woman. Where's the outrage? Where's the T-shirts? Where's the GoFundMes? Where's the community coming together to talk about this? These boys then jumped this man over a woman. It all happened over a woman. And now people have lost their lives. 12-year-old gone, never coming back. Everybody's traumatized. And this guy probably spent the rest of his life in prison. Like when are people going to start teaching and preaching the right thing in the community? When are women going to stop letting everybody hit it on the weekend without holding nobody accountable? And I'm not saying it's just the women's fault, because men, when you going to stop hitting these freaks on the weekend and you ain't got no plan to take care of your kids? You have no plan of having a baby with this woman. You're not trying to be there. You're not trying to take care of nothing. You need to not have children with women that you are not married to. I wouldn't tell you if I didn't know better. If you know what I'm saying. You don't have children with women that you're not married to. If you got married and it didn't work out, hey, you at least you fare better than somebody just smashing and dashing on the weekend and you got some thought that ain't a good mama anyway, and she hates you and you hate her and y'all don't get along, and she trying to keep you away from the kids and do all kind of crazy stuff, and now you in a position where you ain't even there for your kids. I'm just throwing it out there, man. Y'all don't have to listen to me. All right. Love you guys. Appreciate it. Because I'm traveling. We're not going to do post-show clarity. We'll get to it tomorrow. I'll make it up to you. I promise. God bless you guys. God bless America. Make sure you go to Shenergy.com or ShenergyLife.com. Make sure you get that verdict bourbon, and go to TatumStore.com to get your merch. We're out of here.